So I want to thank you again for joining us. Today's program is entitled Spring Decluttering. This features our presenter, Tracy McCubbin, who will discuss why we hold onto clutter, and share a few simple steps, some tips and some things to live by to help us clear our space with confidence. Okay. Now, before I introduce our presenter, there are a few things I want to mention. Senior Planet seeks out subject matter experts for these types of programs, for these expert and insight programs that we offer you. Many of our presenters have used their expertise in the for-profit sector. Now, we're thrilled to have Tracy McCubbin here today, as she has a lot to share, a lot of fantastic information to share with you. So we just want you to know that as a nonprofit, Oats and Senior Planet does not endorse any platforms or products. We do encourage that you take everything that you learn from today's presentation and look out at the market, see what, if anything, any products, any services might be related to today's topic, that is, might be a good fit for you. All right. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Tracy McCubbin. She is the CEO and founder of a company called Declutter, one of America's top decluttering companies. In the last 2 decades, she has helped thousands of clients clear the clutter in their lives, to create space for positive life changes and leading a more positive life. Tracy is also the author of a few books, one entitled Making Space Clutter Free, and her latest book, Make Space for Happiness. I love the title of that one. Tracy looks at the root of our clutter to find a real cause and find ways to find real solutions. All right. So I want everybody to give Tracy McCubbin a very warm welcome. And Tracy, thank you so much for being here as our presenter today. I'll go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thanks, Johnny. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm just looking through the chat. And first of all, a lot of people have recently decluttered their medication. So that is great. People keep saying, I cleaned out my medicine cabinet. I just got rid of it last week, which is fantastic. And I'm also looking at people have been in their homes. Betty from Chicago has been in her home since 1968. Amazing. And we've got 57 years, just really, really people have been in their homes for a long time. So I'm just super, super happy to be here. Again, thanks to Oats for having me. I think this is an amazing organization. I know how much my 83-year-old mom calls me for technological support. So I'm glad that this is out there. I just want to take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Tracy McCubbin, and I am the CEO and founder of a company called Declutter. We are a Los Angeles-based decluttering and organizing company. We have been in business for almost 2 decades. We have thousands and thousands of homes under our belt. So I have been decluttering for a very long time. I'm the author of 2 books on the subject, Make Space for Happiness and Making Space Clutter Free. Both of those are available as audiobooks. Most local libraries have them. So if you you're not buying any more books to keep the clutter down, they're fantastic reads. I also have a personal history that sort of got me interested in decluttering. I come from, I was very, very close to my grandparents as I was growing up, and both sets of grandparents were Depression babies, lived through World War I, through World War II. My grandmother was an immigrant. So I really saw the generational hold that stuff can have on us. I also am the child of a hoarder. One of my parents has severe hoarding disorder. So I spent my life growing up seeing what that was like and the grip that that had on people. Now, I'm not going to talk about hoarding disorder today. This is really just your garden variety clutter that we all have. So if hoarding is something that you're interested, we will not really be covering that today at all. So that's my background, and I'm really happy to be here again. Sorry, I've got a little bit of, there we go. So today we're going to talk about, forget spring cleaning. We're going to talk about spring decluttering, right? I think spring is a great time to declutter ahead of doing your deep spring clean. And, the amazing thing when we're sort of in our last or fifth, 4th chapter, we're really kind of looking at our life differently now, and what do we need and what do we not need, and what happens when we transition. And I really find when people are in this stage of their life, that they're looking at decluttering in a different way. And they're kind of thinking about, well, if something happened to me, where would all this stuff go? Or do I really need it? And am I feeling safe in my home? You know, there's a lot of reasons that decluttering will come up during this time in life. And so I want to give you an overview about kind of why decluttering can be difficult, and also give you a lot of tips to sort of help you move through it. Another great thing about this time right now and thinking about decluttering is if you're considering downsizing. I've seen a lot of people who've been in their homes for more than 40 years, and you might be getting ready to say, like, is it time to move to a smaller space? Is this house too much for me to manage? Am I interested in having some more freedom? So really, if you're considering the downsizing process, decluttering is the first place to start. Okay. So this is a picture from a job that we did not so long ago. And I like to say that now in modern times, clutter is not just for hoarders anymore. Everyone is dealing with too much stuff. We all have, only 25% of Americans can park their cars in their garage. 75% of Americans' garages are full of stuff. Part of that is that things that we buy have gotten cheaper. It used to be things were expensive, but when manufacturing went overseas and the cost dropped down, we were able to buy more. Online shopping hasn't helped. I mean, I remember in the old days when you used to have to leave your house and put on pants to go shopping. Now you can just click a button and things show up on your doorstep. So shopping has gotten so much easier. Things have gotten so much cheaper. We don't mend the way we used to. We don't repair the way we used to. I mean, I don't really hear people talking about hand-me-downs in the way that we did in my childhood. So our relationship to stuff has changed dramatically. It's changed dramatically. And that's why we're all seeing an abundance. That's why I really would go so far as to say that right now, I think this country's in a clutter crisis. I think that people are overwhelmed. People have too much stuff, to the point that outside storage units are $1 billion business. People are renting little tiny houses away from their house to store their stuff. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by clutter, just know you're not the only one, that we're all dealing with this. We're at a critical mass right now. We're really at a critical mass, but I want to give you some tips to help you move through it. Okay, so the first question is, why declutter and organize? Why do it? Other than you want a tidy house or people tell you, there are 3 reasons. Decluttering and organizing saves you money, time, and lowers your stress. Those are the reasons. Not about being perfect, not about having a house that looks like a magazine. These are the reasons. I'm so sorry. It's taking me a minute to get the vibe of pushing the button. So if there's a delay, but let's talk about how being decluttered and organized can save you money. First of all, let's start with the example of, are you paying for offsite storage? That's a real cost. You are putting out that money every month. You are paying to store your clutter. So there's a cost there. Are you buying things that you already own because you forgot that you had them, right? That's clutter. That's a real cost. If there are rooms in your house that you can't use because they are so full of stuff, then that's a cost, right? Think about what you're paying for your mortgage or your house payment or your rent. If there's a room that you can't use, you're paying for it, right? So your clutter is costing you money. Also, think about the clothes that still have tags on them that you've never worn, or the gifts that you bought for people that you've never given them. You paid for those, you're not using them, that's costing you money. And then you also get into, when you want to get rid of something, that can cost you money. You got to pay somebody to haul it away, right? There's just a continuing cost of your stuff. So that's the first reason. The second thing is that it costs you time. Time, as we all know, it's the only commodity you can't buy back. You can't get time back. It goes. I just had a big birthday. I just turned 60. And the only thing I could think, the thing that was in my mind was it went so fast. It went so fast. And your stuff, your clutter is costing you time. You have to move things out of the way to be able to sit at your dining room table. You spend all this time looking for things. You're, constantly moving things back and forth or managing your stuff. That's a really, this is actually a really great way to look at it. And I say this to my clients all the time where they say, how do I know if I have too much clutter? And one of the things that I say is, if you feel like your stuff owns you instead of you owning your stuff, that's a really good indicator that the clutter's gotten the upper hand. And I just want to say this also, I am not a minimalist. I don't preach minimalism. It works for a lot of people. I like pretty things. I have a lot of cookbooks. But it's really about having the amount of stuff in your home that helps your home work for you. Your home is a tool to make your life easier, to give you shelter, to give you a place to rest, to nourish yourself with food. And if the clutter's taken over, you can't do any of that. Your home ceases to be a tool and actually becomes an impediment. So that's really why we declutter. Not about having a sunset magazine, perfect house, but about your house working for you. And as we age, excuse me, as we age, what we need from our house changes, right? Maybe we're not hosting holidays as the way we used to, or getting kids out the door to go to school or going to work, right? As we're aging, our house is starting to serve a different purpose. And we want to make sure that our house is in alignment with that purpose. If you're considering aging in place and don't want to downsize, is your house safe? Do you have safe walkways? Can you sit in places, right? So it's getting to this point in your life where it's like, is all this stuff serving me? And if so, I'm so sorry. If it's not serving you, then it becomes clutter. If the stuff isn't serving you, it's becoming clutter. So that's really the way I always tell people, don't think of it as a right or wrong, but think of it as, is it working for me? Is it serving me? So that's where the time component comes in. Stress, clutter and stress. There have been so many studies on the direct correlation between clutter and our stress levels. Specifically in women, they've done studies that show that when women are in cluttered spaces, their cortisol jacks up, right? Your fight or flight jacks up, the direct correlation. They did a really fascinating study where they put people in a uncluttered kitchen and they offered them a snack. One hand was a cookie, one hand was a carrot. The majority of people in the uncluttered kitchen took the carrot, but then they repeated the same exercise, but they put them in a very cluttered kitchen. And the people in the cluttered kitchen, the majority took the cookie, right? So the cluttered kitchen had them choose the unhealthy snack. What I attribute this to is something that is called decision fatigue. So this is a state where basically the part of your brain that helps you make decisions gets tired faster than the rest of your brain. So when you are making a lot of decisions in a day, your brain's going to get tired and it's going to default to making bad decisions, right? Your brain will default to making bad decisions. So it's why when you wake up in the morning and you're rested, you're completely committed to like healthy eating and salads all day. And then by the end of the day, when you're exhausted, you're eating a whole pepperoni pizza. And you're like, when did I decide to do that? I don't even remember making that decision. That's because you're in decision fatigue. And it's why Obama and Einstein only wore the same color clothes, because they didn't want to have that decision on their plate. So how this relates to stress and clutter is that when you're decluttering or when you're managing a lot of stuff, every piece of clutter, everything is a decision you have to make. Do I want to keep this? Do I use it? Where do I store it? Should I move it around? Should I give it away? Should I try and sell it? Right? Anything in your house that's clutter is going to become a decision. So when you're decluttering, you're going to kick yourself into decision fatigue. That's one of the reasons that it's very difficult. So really think about that, right? Really think about the act of decluttering and how that increases your stress levels. Because when you're in a house and you have stacks of clutter or piles of paperwork, or I describe them as a constant to-do list, right? They're just sort of blinking at you like, oh, I have to deal with that. I have to deal with that. And a lot of times we don't want to, and then they just build up. So the correlation between clutter and stress is very real, especially if downsizing is in the equation. So many people say to me, well, I'd love to get a smaller house or just an apartment. I'm so sick of dealing with the lawn and the roof and the snow, but I can't even imagine downsizing with all this stuff, right? I can't even think about doing it. So as you start to look at the clutter at your house and you want to get a handle on it and you're thinking about what comes next for you, understand that this is part of the process, and feeling overwhelmed and feeling stressed is not your fault. You're not alone, right? It's very stressful to live in a cluttered environment. So think about it. Think about what your home or your life would look like without all this clutter. Think about the peace that you would have, the less stress that you would have, the freedom to invite people over at a last minute, to have your grandkids come and stay with you because you cleaned the guest room out, downsizing, moving to that, senior community that you've been thinking about, all the positives that decluttering and having less stuff will bring to you. It's really important. I always say this to people, that when you go into a decluttering process, to not beat yourself up like, oh, how did my house get like this? And why am I such a mess? And I'm lazy, or I'm a bad housekeeper. But to think, all right, here's where we are, but here's my goals moving forward, right? Here's where I want to be. Here's where I want to go. Think about that. Go into this positively and not beating yourself up, because we want peace. We want calmness. We want less stress in our lives. We don't want to beat ourselves up. Okay, so we've talked about kind of why we want to declutter and why we want to organize and benefits and some of the things that you hit up against. But here's the big question. Why is decluttering so hard? Why is it so hard? Your kids or people say, you just throw it away, just throw it away. Why is it not that easy? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's hard. I have a team. I even have two more organizers than that. We have a full-time team that goes in and helps people declutter because it's hard work. It's not as easy as just throwing things away. First of all, there's a lot of stuff that you don't want to just throw away. You don't want it to end up in the landfill, right? You want it to be recycled or reused or donated or sold. So it's not just a matter of taking stuff and throwing it away. Decluttering is physically hard. It's hard work. I mean, like I said, my team is out there doing this 8 hours a day, every day, and it's hard. And as we age and as we get older, we can't do what we used to. And that's right where we're supposed to be in our process. But we don't realize how much physical work decluttering takes. That's a really big part of it, right? We think we can do what we used to be able to do. And so when we start to do it, we get waylaid because we're like, I'm exhausted. This is such hard work. I don't want to do it. And then we stop. So understand that it's physically taxing. It's uses your brain. You've got to think about, do I want it? Do I not want it? If I don't want it, where does it go? But the other component, and this is really the part to think about, especially as you are in this stage in your life, is that decluttering is emotionally difficult. You're not just throwing stuff away, you're letting go of memories, you're letting go of, a life lived, you're letting go of the legacy of your home and the legacy of your house. So everything that you're looking at makes you think of what happened before. You start to reminisce, and then all of a sudden you're thinking about something and you're stop decluttering because you're remembering a memory. So especially people who have been in their homes 40, 50, 60 years, you are absolutely confronting a life lived. That breakfast room table, how many breakfasts did you have? How many, did you watch your kids go from little to graduating from high school at that breakfast room table? So understand that that you're dealing with like you're processing a passage of time. And that's why it's not always helpful to have family members help you declutter, because they're going to come in and go, just get rid of it. Why are you so attached? It's like, well, this was my life. So one of the things, having done this for 2 decades, that I came up with, I saw, is something I call a clutter block. So a clutter block is a story that we tell ourselves about why we can't get rid of the things we don't want, need, or use anymore. These are universal. There are 7 of them. I have seen them time and time again. I have a couple myself, and these are really blocks, emotional blocks to why we can't let go. And once you kind of get this in your head and you see what's holding you back, it's going to help you let go. So I'm going to go through all of them, and I really deep dive on these in my first book, Making Space Clutter Free. If you want to go back and read and learn, kind of go over them again. So the first clutter block is clutter block number 1. My stuff keeps me stuck in the past. So this is hanging on to things that represent a life we used to live. And they're everything from, your kid that's now grown and has their own home, the bedroom's exactly the way that was the day they left for college, right? It's sort of a museum frozen in time. This is clothes that you used to fit into and you don't anymore. There's something called gravity, right? Our bodies change. We can't wear what we used to, but we hang on to them because I used to be able to wear that. This is, I used to fix my car. So these are all the tools that I use, but I don't fix it anymore. I'm not driving anymore. And the thing about this clutter block, my stuff keeps me stuck in the past, is that it forces you to always be looking backwards. It kind of messages your best days were behind you. It doesn't have you looking forward. Instead of having things in your home that you currently use and that are a part of your current life, but if it's all I used to, right? I used to host Passover, and I have table setting for 26, but I haven't done it in years, but it's taking up all this room. It's making you look backwards. It's keeping you stuck in the past. That's clutter block number 1. Clutter block number 2 is my stuff tells me who I am. Now, this is an interesting one, because this is not only is this designer labels and I buy all the fancy stuff and I'm fancy because I have all this. This is also bargain hunters, right? These are people who are like, I got a great deal. It was on sale, or I went to a yard sale. This clutter block is really about being attached to your stuff because it's your identity. This is me buying really nice things that I never use. This is me getting great deals because I'm an excellent shopper. This is one that sort of keeps us out of human connection, because we're more focused on what the stuff says about us than who we're connecting with, right? And I see this a lot. I see this a lot with my clients who are big yard sailors, and when I realized is that I think for a lot of those people, it was the joy of the yard sale. It was going out on a Saturday morning and being outside and chatting with your neighbors and meeting interesting people, less than about the stuff, right? Less than about the stuff that you were buying. So if this feels like you and you're like, yeah, that's kind of me, is there a way that you can find that connection, that human connection without buying of stuff? Can you not meet somebody up to go shopping, but take a walk around the lake or have lunch? Is there a way that you can fulfill that connection without buying? Okay. Clutter block number 3, avoiding my stuff. Full disclosure, this is my clutter block. I I have a stack of paperwork that's about this high. I don't know what it is. It comes in, I process it, I pay the bill, I do the thing, and I just put it in a box. I can't get it into the file cabinet or shred it. I just am blocked around this. And this is a lot of people, right? This is not opening your mail. This is not answering voicemails. This is just avoiding what I call the business of being a grown-up. Right? That's kind of the deal we make when we sort of enter, when we become a fully formed adult. Like we got to pay our taxes, we got to pay our bills. Like there's just some, paperwork business we have to deal with. And when you avoid it, it doesn't get better. It doesn't go away. That letter from the IRS doesn't go away. I remember when my grandmother was still alive. My grandmother was a bookkeeper and the secretary at her church, and so organized. And she lived to be 102. And like she taught me about the stock market and how to balance a checkbook, and she was super organized. And so we kind of all weren't paying attention. And one day I was at her house, and I answered the phone, the landline rang, and it was the IRS. And it had turned out that she hadn't paid her taxes in like 7 years because we didn't realize that she had aged out of being able to do that. And she just kept thinking like, I have to deal with it. I have to deal with it. And then she kind of got to the point where she started avoiding it. And then all this time passed. So I had to spend a couple weeks getting her all straightened out and got her to the bookkeeper. And, but she had been avoiding it. She'd kind of fallen off of a couple years, and then she avoided doing it, and it just got worse. So clutter block number 3, papers, mail, emails you don't want to deal with, getting your estate taken care of, the business of being a grown-up. So it's not fun, but we got to do it. We've got to do it. Okay. Clutter block number 4. My fantasy stuff for my fantasy life. This is the clutter that we buy or we keep for who we think we're going to be, right? Who we fantasize that we should be. For example, this is people who buy a lot of crafting supplies but never craft. This is people who buy all the stuff for a certain sport and they never end up doing it. I joke all the time, but every time I go into somebody's bedroom and it's got an exercise bike in the middle of the bedroom, I'm like, do you use this? And they're like, all the time, every day to hang my clothes on, right? They fantasize that they're going to take up exercising. Again, I'm guilty of this. I bought a Peloton during COVID. I haven't ridden it in 2 years because I realized I don't work out at home. I fantasize that I'm going to be the person that's going to self-motivate to work out at home. I don't do that. I like to go to a class. I like to be social in my working out. I'm fantasizing that I'm a different kind of person that I am, right? So this is the stuff that you buy bread maker, right? You fantasize that I should be the kind of person that bakes bread. That's who I should be. That's saving money. That's good for, healthier. I should be that person. But if you're not a baker, you're not ever going to do it. And you're going to have this big giant bread maker that's sitting on a shelf, taking up space for something that you fantasize about. And again, this is the same, as this idea that you're supposed to be someone that you're not. Okay, you don't bake bread. There are amazing bakeries around that make delicious bread. You don't have to be a baker. You don't have to be a crafter. You don't have to be a runner. You get to be who you are. And you get to have the stuff that supports who you are, not who you fantasize who you should be. Oh, I should be doing that. I should be living that kind of life. I should have those kind of hobbies. That thinking will add to clutter so quickly, buying the things for the things that you fantasize you should be doing. Okay, clutter block number 5. I'm not worth my good stuff. This is, I don't know if I can say it's one of my favorite clutter blocks, but this clutter block is so, I just see it all the time. This shows up in not using your nice things, right? That there are clothes with tags on them in your closet, that you have wedding gifts that you've never opened or never used, candles that have never been burned. I mean, we do a lot, my company does a lot of estate decluttering. So we go in and help families clean out houses after someone's passed. And the amount of wedding presents from 30, 40 years ago that never have been used, it's astounding to me. It's astounding. I tell this story. This is China. This is a big China and dishware. This shows up around this, right? We used to live a different kind of life. People used to set a nice table. They used to entertain in a different kinds of way. And so now we're getting to this point where people don't really do that anymore. So everybody's stuck with sets of China. A lot of people. Your kids don't want it, right? You're not using it anymore. It's taking up all the space. If you're downsizing, do you take it with you? So I had inherited my grandmother's china. Now, I never liked the pattern. It was not my style, but I took it when she passed because it reminded me of her, and I never used it. It didn't fit with anything I had, and it was a full set. It was a full, I think 24. Took up a ton of space. And I was like, I can't get rid of it because it was her china, but I'm never going to use it. It's too nice because she trained me it can't go in the dishwasher because it's got a gold rim, and it's just too nice. It's too nice. So when my niece was born, she was born a micro preemie, and she was in the NICU for 3 months. My brother and my sister-in-law had come to Los Angeles for a visit when my sister-in-law was pregnant. Something went wrong. She got put into the hospital. They ended up staying for a year. They didn't even get to go back to where they lived. They moved to LA. And then after the baby was born, they got a little house near the hospital so they could be visiting back and forth. And I went over to bring them dinner one night, and I realized that they were eating off of paper plates. They had plastic cups, paper plates. And it just broke my heart because I was like, they've been at the hospital all day, every day. And then they come home to this place that isn't even their home, and they're eating off of paper plates. Like, no wonder, it's just adding to their sense of not belonging and not feeling somewhere. And I was like, I can't do this. So I went home and I packed up all my grandma's china, and I brought it over and I put it in the cupboard so that they had dishes and bowls and all that kind of stuff. And the next time we went out for dinner, we were eating off of real plates and sitting down and having a real dinner. And then after dinner, I turned around and I watched my brother take my grandma's china and put it in the dishwasher. And I had a moment where I was like, oh my goodness, my Nana's going to be rolling over in her grave, like seeing her good china go in the dishwasher. Oh no. And then I thought about it and I was like, no, she wouldn't. My grandma would want my brother to be happy, and she would want that baby to be healthy. And if that's what this means, that if using her good stuff and rubbing the gold off on the rim means that they're going to be more at peace and be healthier when they go to visit the baby, that's what would matter to her. She would not care about the good china. So that's what happened. And I will just say that that baby is now 10 and she just finished 12th in the all Colorado ski racing. So I have to think that, you know, eating off of good china is helped my family give her a lot of love. But use your nice stuff. Use your nice stuff. I say this till I'm blue in the face. Use your nice stuff. Okay, clutter block number 6, trapped with other people's stuff. This is everything from people give you gifts that you don't like, but you feel like you can't give them away because you feel guilty. This is about things that you've inherited from people who have passed away. This one is so loaded for us, right? Because in the end, you don't want the stuff of the people who have passed. You want the connection and you want the memory, but you're hanging on to this stuff because you feel guilty. And I promise you, if you're feeling trapped with other people's stuff, if you let it go, you will not lose that memory. You will not lose that connection. They will not be mad at you from the great beyond. They won't, right? People want you to be happy. If they resent you for letting go of a gift they gave you or something they left you, it's not a healthy relationship. Gifts are a gift. You shouldn't be obligated to keep them. So if there's a lot of stuff around your house that you're keeping because someone gave it to you, or you're feeling guilty about, you know, letting it go, just think of the word, am I trapped? Am I trapped with this stuff? And clutter block number 7, the stuff I keep paying for. So this is the stuff that you spent good money on and you're never going to use. And you know what? That's just being a human. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we overpay for things and we're never going to use them. And we just have to put our big girl pants on and accept, I paid too much for it. I bought it and I'm never going to use it. And we don't beat ourselves up. We just accept. This is what happened. And if you have a lot of stuff around your house that you've never used, but you're keeping it and you're saying, but I paid good money for it. I paid good money for it. It doesn't matter what you paid for it. If you're not using it, you still spent the money, right? So think about that. This is my favorite cartoon of all time. One day, son, this will all be yours. Perhaps you're just leaving your clutter to someone behind. Okay, so how to start and where to start. Now that you kind of understand the emotional, right? The emotional grip, it's gonna make it easier for you. And start, the first thing I say to people is start small. Start with one drawer, one shelf. Don't do your whole house. Don't do your whole garage, right? Start small and be successful. Clean out one drawer. That may take you an hour. It may take you a half an hour. But if you start small and you're successful at it, you're gonna keep going. But if you try and do the whole house at once, you're gonna get overwhelmed, you're gonna leave everything out, and you're gonna go take a nap, right? So start small and also start with the things that are not emotional. Don't start with the letters from your parents that they wrote back and forth to each other when your dad was at war. Start with magazines. Start with paperbacks that you're never going to read again. Start with the unemotional stuff because you are building a muscle. You are building a muscle and you need to practice. If decluttering isn't easy for you, you need to practice. So start with the easy stuff. You're going to let it go. You're going to feel how good it feels. And then you're going to be able to get on to the bigger things. Okay, should it stay or should it go? These are 5 questions that you can ask yourself about anything in your house. And at the end of the presentation, and they also put a link in it, there's a QR code to go to my website to sign up for my newsletter. I don't send a lot out, I promise you. I don't sell your information. And you can get a copy of this. So you can have a PDF of this to ask yourself. So here are the 5 questions. Do you use it more than once a year? Right? There are some things I use every Easter. I only use this at Christmas. Do you use it more than once a year? Now, this is an interesting question if you're thinking about downsizing, because you also have to look ahead and say, well, will I use this in my new life? Right? Maybe if you're going to a smaller space, you're not going to host Christmas or Passover in the same way. So maybe you're not going to use it anymore. So do you use it more than once a year? Number 2, can you borrow it or reasonably buy it again? There's a lot of things that we have that you could absolutely borrow from somebody, or it'd be cheaper to buy again, especially if you're paying to store them. So can you borrow it or reasonably buy it again? Number 3, does this item make you money? Now, this is not the garage sale that you're someday going to have. Maybe if you ever have it, this is an item that you actively use to generate income. Number 4, and I think the most important one, do you have a place to store it? Does this thing that you own have a home where it lives that makes sense? Not in the bathtub, not in the shower stall, but a place to store it. This also really comes in if you're downsizing, right? Will you have a place to store this in your new place, right? And the last one is, I'm not a monster, so I do have sentimentality in me, right? Do you love this item? There are things that we have in our life that we just love and they make us happy, right? I have little mementos from trips I've taken that when I see them, I love them. I collect fabric when I travel and make it into pillows. So I have pillows that are from a trip to Morocco and a trip to Vietnam, and I love them. Are they practical? You know, my husband would say no when we've got to remake the bed, but I love them, so we keep them. So this, if you sign up for my newsletter, you will get a copy of this. All right, when you go to get rid of things, let's talk briefly about selling versus donating. And I know that Johnny afterwards, immediately after this, is doing a workshop on how to sell online. Take it. If you're thinking about selling, this is going to be such valuable information because, and Johnny will back me up on this, selling is harder than you think. It's a lot more time consuming. You've got to put some practices in to keep yourself safe. You've really got to understand what you're doing. So if you're going to make the decision to sell some things, take Johnny's workshop because it's hard. Now,
Actually, Zeke will be teaching that class.
oh, Zeke, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry, Zeke will be teaching it. Just as handsome and charming as Johnny. So it'll be great. But I think it's a really valuable, I think learning about what's involved versus in selling online is going to be really help you to make the decision of if you want to sell or if you want to donate, right? I'm always a fan of trying to get rid of things in your own community. I sort of prefer that over going to a big, Goodwill or Salvation Army. I really like smaller nonprofits. I really like people in your life. I think it's a great way to do it. And I'm also going to say this, and I've seen this with a lot of my clients, is that, it's really nice to give things away before you pass, to see people enjoy them. I had a beloved client. She was my client for like 15 years and she passed a year ago. And she kind of in her early 90s started to give her jewelry away to her granddaughters, to different people. And everyone was sort of horrified and like, oh, this is so morbid. And why are you doing this? And she was like, I'm not wearing this stuff anymore. I don't live this life. I want to see people enjoy it. I want to go out to lunch with my granddaughter and see her wearing that ring, right? So there's something really empowering and honoring and kind about giving things to your family before you pass. 1, it's going to help you declutter. 2, you're going to stop the family fight. And 3, you're going to see them enjoy it. You can also do what my mom's doing now, where every time we go to her house, she makes us take something when we leave. So we're forever like shoving something in our suitcase. She's like, you have to take this. So really, I would start. Also, I'll say this about if letting go is difficult for you, then giving it to someone who really needs it makes it easier. If the thought of putting it in the big bin at the thrift store, I'm like, I don't know where this is going. This means nothing. Giving it to someone who really needs it is going to make it easier to let go. I live in Los Angeles. We just had terrible, terrible, terrible fires. 30,000 people lost their homes. And it's been awful. And my company has just started our own little effort where we're getting furniture from clients, and we're at our own expense giving it to people, dropping it off who's lost their homes, who are getting into new homes. And when I tell my clients we're doing that, they're so quick to be like, well, take this. Can I put some clothes together? You know, if you know you're helping someone else out, it's going to make it easier to let go. So if that's difficult for you, then try and find a nonprofit or people that you really, that really need it can use it. It's gonna make it easier. It's gonna make it easier to let go. Okay, I'm gonna skip over some slides because they're not relevant right now, but we're gonna take some questions, and I just wanna leave this. This is a tagline for my company. Make space for what matters, right? When you go into decluttering, what matters to you now? What's important? Is it time with your friends? Is it reading on the couch? Is it taking your dog for a walk? What matters to you? And do you have the space in your life for that? These are my books. If you go to my website, they're there. They're in every public library. And I always like to say at the end of our life, we are the sum of our experiences, not the weight of our stuff. So I'm going to put up this QR code. You can shoot it with your phone. Johnny and Zeke and everybody will put links in. So you can get the should or stay, take you to my website. This is where you can find me. Well, I'll just leave it up while we take some questions. Do we have some good ones, Johnny?
We do. Yeah, we have a few questions. And what I really love is that a lot of people had some great advice for some people's questions. So there was a lot of sharing in the chat room, you'll see.
Well, I'm looking at it's blowing up over here. I'm like,
also, the last few questions that came in where people were wondering how they can sign up for the newsletter. Is it by scanning the QR code?
Yep, you can scan the QR code, but then also, I think, Johnny, you said, do you want to drop it in the chat?
The web address?
Yeah, it's just www.declutterfly.com.
Okay.
They can go there, the QR code, and I think when they share the link, they'll put it up.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely put the link in there in the chat room. And a couple of questions that we had. Let me go through at least a few that we have, and you can see some of the other comments and responses from other participants. So I want to thank all of you for sharing all of your wonderful tips. So there's also one thing before I go into the question. So first off, let me put the link to your website into the chat room first and foremost. And I wanted to share something because there was a couple of questions about books. People were talking about books, and a friend of a friend in the family. I wanted to did this in their front yard. I want to share my screen really fast to show you what they.
Oh, do you want me to stop sharing, or you can?
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. So first off, I'm going to show you Tracy's website, and I put the link to the website into the chat room now. So this is the website. You can go through there and sign up for the newsletter. And this is a picture from a Facebook post. So a lot of people are building these little stops, in their front yards, in neighborhoods that they live in. And you fill this little house with books. People can come by, pick up a book, drop off a book or whatever. But that's one way, that I think you could.
I saw somebody in Portland made they call those the little free libraries, but I saw someone made one for coffee mugs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they made a shelf, and people put their coffee mugs, and people take their coffee mugs.
That's another great idea, because
I know, it's so good.
I got a clutter of coffee mugs for sure. All right, so let me go over some of the questions that we did come across. So Lynette was asking, it's the where does it go that trips me up. Old records, sheet music, items I inherited from parents. I don't want to just trash them. I suggested, these are items that can very well be sold online. There's a lot of people who collect old records, and especially sheet music, if it's sheet music, original printings, or just reprints of old music. So if you want to address that.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. Where does it go, right? My grandma used to say, when you throw something away, where's away? And I think especially if we become a steward of something, we feel, we feel an attachment, and I want to make sure it goes to the right place. So, there's a couple things. You can do some research to find out if people are buying it. Like old records and sheet music. Sheet music, a lot for us, we donate it to, we have a couple organizations in LA that teach music to, kids who couldn't normally afford music lessons. We have something called the Colt Burn. I always just call them and take it. So sometimes with a little bit of research, you can find a home for those things. You can always, honestly, you can always email us info@declutterfly, info@declutterfly.com. And we know, we can find homes for a lot of stuff. So if you're really stuck about something, or you have something really rare, send us an email and we'll see if we can help you place it. But, I just saw this great little chain about the quilters, right? That the quilters are giving each other what to do with all that stuff. In LA, in Pasadena, we have a really cool nonprofit called Remainders. And they take sewing and crafting supplies. So you donate it and they teach classes. So, with a little bit of work, you can find a home for almost anything. And if you're really, really, really stuck, feel free to reach out to my company. We've got a lot of answers. We recently had to get rid of a stuffed bald eagle that Ernest Hemingway had shot and given to my client's father. And we were like, it's illegal to have them. Like, you can't sell it. Like, what are we going to do with this bald eagle? But it was perfect. And my organizers called and reached out and gave it to a prop house. So a big prop house that does props for movies and TVs took this bald eagle.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, prop houses for sure. I've always wanted that job, to shop around or find items that will be used in movie sets and things like that. Okay, so another question coming in from Scott. Notes, papers, and to-do lists are difficult to deal with. How can I do better?
Okay, so a couple things. The cause of paper clutter is over retention, right? And you know this, you're keeping too much. The first thing with to-do lists is, and I am a to-do list person. I'm going to show you right now, to-do list right here. This is but remember that to-do lists are not permanent. They're not ephemera. They're not paper to keep forever. They're to do what you do and get rid of them. Right. And you'll notice if you start to go through old to-do lists that you kind of have the same tasks on them. So it's about not being attached to the to-do list. Notes, same thing, right? Are they projects for the future? Are you ever going to get them done? Can you maybe take a picture of them or scan them? When you're a truth seeker or an information person or a idea person, that you like, this is the book I'm going to write, or this is the thing. So it's really looking at them from the lens of, is this going to serve me? Am I really ever going to write this book? Can I make a file? Am I getting this stuff done? Sometimes with to-do lists too, we go over them and we feel bad because we're like, I'm not getting my stuff done. But understanding that to-do lists are just, they're not permanent. They're just a thing to get through today. And really just, there's something that happens where the longer they sit, they kind of get this importance. You're like, well, I kept this for a reason. How can I let go of it? Well, you just kept it because you didn't declutter it. So understanding the purpose of the notes and the papers and the to-do lists and the things. Also, this one's hard for me too. The things I'm going to read, the articles I want to read, understanding I only have so much time in the day. That's my also pile of books, right? Just understanding, like, I mean, I feel terrible. Everyone recommended it to me. I tried to read A Gentleman in Moscow. It's not for me. It's a beautifully written book. I keep trying to read it. I just have to admit, I am not going to read that book, and it's got to go in my little free library around the corner. And I feel bad because I know it's a great book, but I'm not going to read it.
Yes. And one thing I might add that I do for myself instead of jotting down to-do lists and things like that and notes for myself, I just use the notes app on my smartphone. And sometimes that can get decluttered, but you can always delete some old some old notes. But yeah, every smartphone comes built in with a notes app of some kind, so you can always
Notes
use.
app is great. I've also started to make now on my smartphone, I can dictate dictate a voice memo and it'll transcribe it into a written note. So I've been
Mhm.
doing that a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm a to-do list note person, and I just kind of I always try at the end of the day to like go through my note, post-its are everywhere, toss what's not appropriate. Like really, I think Scott, something about that when it crosses over, like sometimes like it gets the best of you. So it's about staying on top of it every day.
And one last question, Tracy, we have is how do you recommend searching for a local decluttering company? Sylvia Torres is in Georgia. She was wondering, are there
Hmm.
any tips that you can offer for finding a good one?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a really good organization called National Association of Professional Organizers, NAPO. There's also another organization called National Association of Senior Move Managers, and they're both professional organizations and they vet their members. So I would start with both of those. The other big thing, here's some things to look out for when you're hiring a professional organizer. You want to make sure you want to know how long they've been in business. You want to make sure that they have insurance, that they're truly a vetted company. I like to ask them if the people who work for them are employees, not contractors, and ask them if you can speak to other clients, right? Ask for referrals. Organizing is kind of a newish profession. A lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon. So just ask them, like, do you have someone I can talk to? Are there a couple people that I can talk about their experience? But both of those organizations, NAPA, maybe in the notes, Johnny, you guys can put it, National Association of Professional Organizers and National Association of Senior Move Managers. I like that. I'm a member of that, and I really like it because it's not just people who are helping you downsize, but they also offer decluttering and organizing, and they're used to working with older
Mhm.
adults. But for me, also the other thing is I prefer a company that does a free consult. I don't want to have to pay for a consult. That's another a little bit of a red flag for me.
Yeah.
So, but both of those organizations are great.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank you so much, Tracy, for your presentation. Remember, folks, I put some information into the chat room where you can find the recording. Now, give us a couple of weeks to upload that recording into our YouTube channel, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way, you'll get notifications of when we offer new recordings of new events and things like that. So that information is in there. And remember to attend our next session coming up and starting right now. The link is in the chat room, or you can go to seniorplanet.org, click on upcoming online classes, and you'll find Zeke's class on selling your things online, which can very well help with decluttering your spaces. So let's give Tracy a round of applause. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank
Remember,
you. Thank you
look
so
for
much.
the
Always great
recording.
to talk to you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.